Hi, Roxanne here again. Last time I showed you this quilt. This is something what it was looking like with the oval still on the right, but then it seemed to need something more on the bottom. So I was playing around with that peach piece. I decided to add a hot pink piece at the bottom to connect with the one that's already there. And then I also tried covering up to the right of it the bright white that's there, or the light pink, and just to see what that would do. So I'm just playing around with things and moving things around to see what's going to work. Just pinning them up and getting back and looking at them. At this point, I decided to keep that light pink piece and add a larger light pink piece to the bottom of that shape to ground it more. And then I added that light pink, dark pink piece and snugged it up a little higher against that other shape on the left. You may have noticed at this point that my background is now more or less complete. And I decided to add more of that dark maroon and curve it all the way up to the right-hand corner. And so I cut that piece out, and I think it's just pinned there for now. Now I'm ready to shape that peach part that's going to go up to the left-hand side. And so I've marked out the shape with chalk pencil. You can see the little white chalk lines there. And I'm going to cut around those 1/4 of an inch and turn the edges under. So here's what it looks so far. Still pinned up there with that orange, that peach shape connecting all the way up into the dark maroon. And I really like it, so I'm going to keep it. So now I've got that peach shape on the left, and I've decided I need a central piece to go up the middle. So I've added that maroon piece that snakes up the middle, and then just to the right of that, I added another little peach squiggle and just slid it underneath that other batik on the right. And I really like how all of those look together, like they're kind of coming out of the center. Well, one decision affects the next decision, and I decided that the left side of the piece was looking a little bare. So that's when I decided to move the ovals over to the left side, and I think it looks much more balanced on the left side. So I'm going to add those in. At this stage, everything is still pinned, so I'm going to go ahead and sew them all down with the invisible zigzag stitch. So things have changed quite a bit since I last showed you this piece. And what I've done now is I've completely constructed the background, and this is still not attached. I've moved those little ovals over to this side because it seemed to need something over there. And it's partially sewn down. It's not completely sewn down yet. And as I was looking at it, I didn't have this piece on there. I'm just going to remove it. And it just seemed to need something down there. So I added that little piece, and it seemed like it needed that flow from the top all the way down to the bottom. It feels like that pink is coming from underneath and exploding out the top. So that's why I added that piece. Yeah, and I think it's almost done actually. I'm going to have to inset these, sew all this down, and trim away any background that doesn't need to be there. And then it will be ready for quilting. It turned out to be quite different from what I had originally started with. And that's just the nature of improv, and I love it. And so I just let the piece evolve where it wants to go. Each piece I add does something different to it, and so then I can work from that point on. Okay, I thought I'd show you a little bit how I'm going to make these ovals. So I marked with my chalk pencil about 1/4 of an inch smaller than the actual oval. And now I'm cutting out. Use my sharp scissors. 1/4 of an inch from that marked line. Make sure you can still see. Okay, so I've gotten rid of that, and now I'm ready to clip. So I'm going to go ahead and just clip, clip, clip. Not very deep, about a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. Because when I fold the clips back, I want them to, I don't want to fold, I want to fold them further back from the edge of the clip, so I don't have any raw edges showing. Let's continue around the oval. I know it's a little hard to see what I'm doing, but you can see those little clips there. And this is going to make it real easy to turn to the wrong side of the fabric. Let's see how far I got there. So I will be folding on that chalk line. Looks like I made it all the way around. Almost all the way around. Okay, that's the last one. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over onto the wrong side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start flipping these little pieces backwards and gluing them down with my glue stick. So just a little bit at a time, I'm going to add some glue first. And just using my fingers, I'm pulling it backwards and pressing down. And just work my way around the oval. Don't have to be super neat with the glue because it's all on the wrong side of the fabric, so it's not going to show. Okay, and then I'm just going to hit that with my iron real quick. Flip it over. And that's pretty close to my chalk line, so I'm happy with that. Give it another press. And that chalk line will disappear with some water. And then I'm going to take my fabric, pop it underneath. See if I can get it somewhat in the middle there. Well, that didn't work out. about like that. Okay, and then once again, using my glue stick, I can just glue it down little by little. Maybe lift up this edge would be easier. I want it nice and secure when I go to sew it down. Oops. Of course, I'm going to use my tiny invisible zigzag with the invisible thread to get that to be nice and secure. So I'm going to take it over the sewing machine and get that sewn down. Okay, so I gave it a good spray with my spray starch mixture. Just starch and water. And then I'm pressing it down. Make sure it lays nice and flat. Chalk marks are gone. On the other side, I got a little bit close on that edge, but it's still secure. So I'm just going to go ahead and just trim off a little bit of that extra. I might, I could just leave it. I might leave it. I might trim it. I don't know. There's so little of it to trim. I might just leave it for a little extra security. So anyway, I've got 2 more to do, just like that. And that's going to give me a nice, neat oval. And then this is going to lay on top of it. So I'll go ahead and stitch that side down next. I could do that right now and get it down. And then I can go ahead and finish it off. So that's all there is to making these little ovals or circles. It's much easier to inset them than it is to turn the raw edge on a little tiny oval. So that's why I do it this way instead. And here's my final composition. I'm quite pleased with it. It's a nice little piece, and I think the quilting will add a lot to it in the open areas. Thanks for watching.